anti-gold.
Oh, no. When I had my fund, I think people might have called me a gold bug.
How did you wind up interacting with Zelensky?
President asked me to go to Kyiv. Well, he actually asked me to lead the economic agreement that was part of his peace plan. And I think it's important to look at the arc of President Trump's peace plan. And he had sequenced it really well. It was, we're going to sign a deal with Ukrainians, and it'll do several things. One, it will make the U.S. and Ukraine partners, so link us closer together. Two, it will be a symbol to Russian leadership that the U.S. isn't abandoning Ukraine. But importantly, three, it will show the American people that we have an economic stake and that we haven't just been doing these massive grants, which has been the history of U.S. aid.
Of course.
So Ukraine succeeds, we succeed, and it could be a long-term partnership. Now, I thought it was important to take the agreement to Kyiv and present it to President Zelensky. Everyone was telling me, oh no, have him meet you in Vienna. He's going to be at the Munich Security Conference a few days later. I said, no, I want to go there and discuss it with him. And that's how I ended up going to Kyiv. Very, very interesting going to Kyiv. Fly to Poland.
Yeah.
Then you get on, I don't know if you've been on it, get on this night train for 10 hours. And you arrive at Kyiv at 8:30 in the morning. And for anyone who they said, oh, the President Trump selling out to the Russians, not selling out to the Russians bombed Kyiv 4 hours before I got there. They hadn't bombed since November. So the Russians didn't like the look of this deal because it thought that it was actually something durable for the U.S. people and the Ukrainian people.
So what happened?
President Zelensky was in the mood to sign the deal that day. We had a spirited discussion, and I said to him, you've got 50 reporters out there. I am here to show that there is no daylight between the American people, the Russian people, between, Ukrainian people, between the American leadership and Ukrainian leadership. And I said, you've opened up daylight size of the Grand Canyon. What are we going to go out and tell those people? He said, tell them I'm going to sign the deal in Munich. I said, so you're going to sign the deal when you see Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio in Munich? Yes. He didn't sign it there. There was a lot of back and forth. The following week, they're begging to come to the White House and should make him sign the deal before he comes. And then he got to the Oval Office and blew up what should have been the easiest thing to do in the world. He was supposed to show up, have a press conference. We were going to have a private lunch. If he had anything on his mind, there were going to be 9 of us, 9 of them in the White House dining room. He could have aired his grievances then. And there's a famous photo in the East Wing ballroom of everything laid out on the table to be signed. And it never got signed.
So this is an unelected president of a client state whose bureaucrats are being paid directly by American taxpayers, including their retirement accounts are funded by us.
And they have the lowest retirement age in Europe. It's 60. Put it in contrast, France is 62 and Italy's 67.
And we're paying for that. And so at a certain point, you wouldn't expect a man like that in a highly precarious position, I think it's fair to say, to assume a high-handed tone with American officials and berate them and sniff a lot and say, just basically act like a crazy person. How do you account for that? The arrogance. What is that?
Look, a couple of things is he was a performer, kind of a vaudevillian, and he was an ordinary person thrown into a fraught time, rose to the occasion.
Yes.
Was heroic.
Yes.
And I think is stuck. And I think under a tremendous amount of pressure, I think that some of the government officials around him in the cabinet are very good. I think some of the people around him, he's not getting the best advice, that his advisors are not perfect. And I think if we go back to the agreement, I think one of the great things about the agreement is it makes sure that the money comes to the American people and the Ukrainian people. Because, Tucker, let me tell you what the agreement wasn't. It wasn't one of these rapacious Chinese deals where it's sign over your mines, sign over your port, or it wasn't a loan to own. Here's a loan. You're never going to be able to pay it back. We're going to get this. It's a genuine economic partnership that they put in assets. We can put in loans from our overseas banks. We put in American know-how, and we don't make any money unless they make money. And you know who doesn't like that? People with their hand in the till.
Right.
Right. Because we were regulating the flow of the money. So I think that's part of the glitch. I am hopeful that it was a bug, not a feature of the system, and that's been fixed. We're expecting a Ukrainian technical team beginning of next week, and I'm hopeful we can get this thing signed and go back to a win-win situation, because President Trump's, I didn't give you the full arc of the deal. President Trump wanted to create this deal with the Ukrainians, then be able to go to Russian leadership and show them that we do stand with the Ukrainians, but on an economic basis. And then the Russians would be incentivized to come to the table also. And so that the sequencing has been thrown off, but I think we can fix it.
Are we ever going to get an audit of where all of our billions went, where all the weapons we sent, what happened to all the cash, all the pallets of $100 bills, like where are they now? Why is it hard to get an audit of what happened to the money?
I don't know. Tucker, in my life, I always try to look forward.
Yes.
And I think if this deal works, then that money could end up being small change.
Yes.
A good way to think about it, when the Iron Curtain came down, Ukraine and Poland's economies were roughly the same size. Poland is 3.5 or 4 times larger now.
Yes.
Poland is going to have one of the highest per capita GDPs in the world, higher than some Western European countries.
For sure.
Ukraine, to your point, because of various kleptocracy aspects, has been held back.
Yes.
So hopefully with U.S. assistance and President Trump engineering this peace deal, Ukrainian people can have a better future.
For a Treasury Secretary, you're a very capable diplomat, I must say, very diplomatic language.